Hi friends, I wanted to bring you a monthly recap of my faith planner, which I had presented earlier in a previous video as part of my 2026 Bible study stack and Bible study setup. This year I've decided to do something a little bit different, and that is to use my Laurel Denise planner, which I absolutely love, as a faith planner. And so in a previous video, I had shown part of this information here, but now that we've worked our way through the month of January, I wanted to pay this another visit and show you how I actually filled out each week. Now, my main objective in setting up this faith planner is to help keep me, number one, on track with my various reading assignments and the activities that I consider to be vital to my spiritual growth and development, as well as a way of accountability. As you may recall, if you watched the earlier video, I began by setting up the big picture overview of the month and what I hoped to achieve. The way in which this is structured includes very minimal information in the calendar or monthly overview, and that's intentional by my design. I've limited it to include my weekly Bible study that I lead at our church, obviously my church sermon series, which I filled in what the topic happens to be. This month it was Fruit of the Spirit, and I should say in January it was Fruit of the Spirit. So I'm tracking along each week what the sermon is focusing on. And then quite simply, when I'm scheduled to teach in a variety of different formats. And that's part of what I do. I write Bible study content and I teach. In addition to that, I wanted to track my daily prayer focus, which I've done here in the left margin. And that just allows me each and every day to make sure that I'm including a particular prayer focus as part of my daily prayer. That's also reflected in my habit tracker, or maybe I should call it faith tracker. For me, I like to begin my day with quiet time and prayer, which can include working in my prayer Bible, a devotional, Bible reading, Bible study, and then a period of reflection. And that's all woven into my morning time. You'll see that for each day I completed it, I just filled in the circle. Now, there are some days which by design, I'm not including Bible study. And part of that happens to fall on Sundays. I'm going to church, and in the afternoon, I try to minimize what I'm actually doing. So I include my habit tracker progress. And again, that helps me to stay accountable. And quite frankly, there were days where I missed, but I went back and caught up. And that can happen, obviously. In addition to that, down below, there are 4 columns, 4 categories, and I can approach this in a number of ways. I chose to focus on prayer, devotional, Bible reading, and Bible study. Now, what was I doing in January? And by the way, I've already made a modification to this. So in February, you'll see what that modification is. So for prayer, I use the Lectio 365 app on my phone as just a way of settling into the presence of God. And then, as I mentioned, I'll oftentimes work in my prayer Bible. This year, I'm focusing on the attributes of God. It's been really great so far. For my devotional reading, I'm going through Untamed Prayers, which is a devotional. I have it on my Kindle, Praying Through the Psalms by Chad Bird. I highly recommend this devotional. My Bible reading consists of not 1, but 2 Bible reading plans. One through the James Method, and a second one, which is taking me through the New Testament in a year through our Facebook group, Sacra Via, Scripture Study, Art, and Journaling. Lastly, my Bible study. In the month of January, I was focusing on the I Am sayings of Jesus, which is part of a James Method study that we're engaging in, as well as working through various aspects of chapter 35 of Genesis. So that's a snapshot of what I was working on in the month of January. The details will be in the pages that follow. On the right side, I have this little page that I set up for notes and quotes. And one of the books I'm reading, I'm actually going through a bookstagram, I think is the right name for it, challenge to read 12 books, one a month or 12 throughout the course of the year. And so I decided I wanted to give that a try because I love to read. I love to read, at least based on the number of books I own. I don't know about you, but I have a lot of books. And so I began my journey by reading this phenomenal book by an Old Testament scholar who we lost to heaven last year, Walter Brueggemann. And he wrote this book called Sabbath as Resistance. Friends, it's pretty radical about this whole notion of us engaging in and practicing diligently Sabbath as a means of pushing against the forces that would want us to just consume and accumulate. And so I included a quote here from Brueggemann, and I'll share it with you. It's great. The Sabbath is the crucial bridge that connects the 10 Commandments together. It looks back to the first 3 and the God who rests. At the same time, it looks forward to the last 6 commandments that concern the neighbor. They provide for rest alongside our neighbor. What a fascinating book this was. And I'm excited to be starting a new book in February. So stay tuned for what I'll be reading next month. Then in the pages that follow in this planner are my details. And this is the part that I fill in each week as the pieces fall into place. Now, I'm not a fan of going through and crossing out tasks as I complete them, because that's not the way I've set this up. I've set this up as actually a way I can go back and reflect and look at, here's what I was working on or reading or studying in the month of January on this particular week. So again, it's functioning as a planning tool for my spiritual growth as well as an accountability tool. My key goals for what I was going to do this week, this is the one place where I'll put in what I'll call work criteria. And so I have a lot of video content that I try to produce depending on what week it is. And when it's not that, it's usually working on a writing project or a content idea. So you'll find some information scattered throughout, but I'll list it here. And I decided that I wanted to include, and this was a late addition, so I'll probably modify this a little bit next month. Through the James Method, there's a weekly scripture memory verse, and I decided to write it out in my to-do list. I don't memorize these verses. What I actually do is I write them out. So for me, it becomes more of a scripture writing exercise than a scripture memorization exercise. You can use it for any purpose you want. There's a verse that's provided every week by the James Method. So in the first week, it was a verse from Genesis chapter 17, verse 5. And then I just lay out what I'm going to be doing that week. And this is extremely helpful for me in my planning my work, as well as planning what my daily activity and my daily schedule is going to look like. And so it includes my quiet time. It includes my reading. And again, as opposed to doing Bible study on Sunday when I get home from church, I'll read typically. And then I'll do my reading plan from both the read through the year read through the whole Bible in a year, and then read through the New Testament. And then you'll see a similar track that follows. Quiet time, my Psalm devotional that I'm working through, my Bible reading, and then this month I've been focusing on note-taking in Ephesians, and you've seen, I think, a couple of pieces of information alluding to that. So I've been working on specifically the armor of God. So you can look forward to a video or two on that subject coming up next month, as well as in the month of March. Then in Tuesday through the rest of the week, I'm really just capturing the continuation of those daily activities. The one addition that I make in here is on Wednesday, I allocate the time slot where I'll be at church leading Bible study. And we're following the sermon series, so we're working alongside pastors' messages on the fruit of the Spirit. And that is my setup for each and every week. So week 2 is going to look a lot like week 1 because I'm tracking the same concepts each and every week. So I'm still studying in Ephesians. I see the progression of my reading plan. I see the progression of my Psalms that I'm reading as devotionals, and my to-do list will vary, as well as the weekly scripture memory verse. So that's how I'm setting up these weeks. You see here, week 3, same thing. I've added in my scripture memory verse for the week and my content projects that I'm working on. I did shift gears because I had completed my tasks in studying and doing some prep on Ephesians, and I completed that by the second week in January. I've been working on this study actually since November with Michelle, who also posts videos in this YouTube channel, and it's been a blessing to work with her. So now my focus has been on the Gospel of John, zeroing in on those, specifically the 7 I am sayings, and that's been phenomenal so far. And then finally, in the last week, continuing to track my progress, moving forward with my reading plan, my devotional, Bible study, etc. So that's a look at the big picture monthly overview, the more focused, I'll say, objectives that I have for the month of January, some notes that I captured, and then the detail. This is where I'm plugging in my detail. Now, at the end of the month are these 2 blank inserts or pages. What I opted to do, and I may change this from month to month, but what I opted to do was grab some quotes, some more quotes. One is from Chad Bird's Untamed Prayers devotional. I thought it was an excellent quote, so I added it in. And then, as part of reading through the Gospel of Mark, which is how we started our New Testament reading plan, we launched right into the Gospel of Mark, and it was terrific. I found some wonderful notes from the NIV application Bible Notes commentary. And so I included a snippet from that. And I like to go back and look at those from time to time. And then on this last page, which looks a little bit sparse, but something tells me I'll be going back and filling this in once I'm into February with some more detail. I had 2 writing projects going on in the month of January. One was working in the book of James on some study resources, and then, as I've already mentioned, the armor of God from Ephesians 6:10 through 18. One is complete, so I could go in and check that off, that one's completed. The other is still a work in progress. That's how I've chosen to set this up as my faith planner for 2026 and what it looks like in the month of January. Now, as I mentioned, I'll be setting up the month of February very shortly and I'll be making a few modifications and adjustments. I'd love to hear in the comments below what you include in your faith planner. Thanks for tuning in, and take care.